entertainmentbuddha.com.
Matt and Nick, your favorite Star Wars podcast hosts. Well, at least we want to be your favorite. You might not be listening to us. If this is your first time, welcome. I'm Matt. The guy that I'm going to reference, that's Nick. You'll hear him here in a little bit. He's not allowed to talk yet. He's allowed to talk when I tell him he's allowed to talk. So anyways, we're back for a new episode of Star Wars Time, and we have a plethora of topics to cover. We're still in Star Wars season, and that's the best thing about life right now, and that's why we should all respect Mother Disney, because Star Wars season is in season every season at this point in time. We've got either a new trilogy movie coming out or a standalone movie coming out for the next few years, so life is good, and that's why we have topics tonight that range from Solo, a Star Wars story, or as we titled our last podcast, Han Solo. Spelled L-O-W, if you didn't get the joke there. We've got stuff about the potential Kenobi standalone, and we have some stuff about The Last Jedi, but we also have some stuff about Rian Johnson's new trilogy. So like I said, we're spanning all sorts of timelines from that galaxy that is so far, far away. All right, brother, so we're back. We're here for a new episode of Star Wars Time. We got all sorts of stuff to talk about. What do you want to start with, my friend?
I think we need to jump right into Solo, right? I mean, that's what everybody's waiting for.
We still haven't been given shit, but we did get our taints tickled this week, right? With a synopsis, an official synopsis at that, from Disney.
Yeah, I mean, considering we are 4 months out from this film, and the only thing that we have to talk about officially is a synopsis, is definitely not what we expected.
It's crazy.
You know, we're recording here January 19th. This movie comes out on May 25th, so you have a month and 6 days. And we're talking about a plot synopsis. We're talking about 3 sentences, people. We're not talking about a poster. We're not talking about a trailer. We're talking about a 3-sentence plot synopsis.
And honestly, Nick, sentences anyone that has ever seen a Star Wars movie could have written.
Oh, yeah, exactly. That's where I was going, is like, if you know anything about the Star Wars universe, if you know anything about Han Solo. Okay,
Nick, real quick, give me a Han Solo movie pitch, and you would have said the same fucking thing.
Yeah, it's like, do we get to find him, meeting Lando? Does he get to meet Chewie? Does he get the Falcon? It's like, I mean,
honestly, if we're going to critique it, the first sentence is already false.
Yeah, board the Millennium Falcon and journey to a galaxy.
We're not going to start this movie with the Falcon in his possession. And if we do, I'm walking out.
Yeah, I mean, the only way that you could do that is that this movie would have to be played out in flashbacks. Like, okay, so this is I did not expect to go here, but what if that happens? Like, what if the first thing we see is Han Solo?
You win the Genius Award already for this episode, and you took it last episode, so you're back-to-back winners now, but that's the only way this would work. And just, I don't think we read the full sentence for those of you at home, because sometimes we forget that this is just a talkie box show and not a fucking picture show. But here's the first line of this the Solo, a Star Wars story film. Board the Millennium Falcon and journey to a galaxy far, far away. In Solo, a Star Wars story. An all-new adventure with the most beloved scoundrel in the galaxy.
Yeah, so like you said, right off the bat, board the Millennium Falcon. They're already
saying that just expect to get this story fed to you through the Falcon.
Yeah, I mean, expect the expected here. It's not something like The Last Jedi where we had a bunch of crazy twists that nobody saw coming. The Han Solo film will more than likely be pretty easy to, see where it's going, pretty easy to predict, but we should still have fun with it. Like they said here, Han Solo is one of the most beloved characters in the Star Wars galaxy. He's the scoundrel. He's the nerf herder. He's everything that we remember from the OT and then that one movie that we saw him in TFA in the beginning of this new trilogy. And he's a fantastic character. And what I was saying, the only way that we could possibly jump on the Falcon from the start is if we start this movie with Harrison Ford on the Falcon, and then this movie plays out in flashbacks.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that'd be fantastic, but no way. I mean,
could you imagine that though, dude? Like he's sitting, like him and Chewie are like sitting, coasting on the Falcon. They both have a drink, fire whiskey or whatever in their hand, and then they just start back. Like he just leans back and says, "Remember when all this shit started, Chewie?" And then boom, it just goes.
At one point in time, I thought I was the one destined for the story group, but now I think you're taking my seat.
You know, we both have good ideas. I mean, you came up with some fucking real hot shit.
Yeah, we'll just start we'll start the Matt and Nick wannabe story group.
Yeah, like, exactly.
Fanboys in their own mind story group.
We'll write our version of the script, mail it to Lucasfilm. They'll throw it in the trash can.
Quite frankly, I think if TLJ played out the way we pretended to, a lot more people would have been happy. Even though I fucking love the movie, but I think we would have gave fans exactly what they wanted. But that's neither here nor there, because again,
we'll get to that. Yeah, we'll get to that soon,
dude. I mean, back to the synopsis. It's only 2 sentences.
Oh yeah, it's two longer.
The second sentence is really, really long, and you probably. If you're an English professor, you could probably make an argument that it should have been broken up a bit more. But just to finish it off, so again, they're already conceding the fact that the Falcon's going to play a major role in this movie. But then they go on to say, through a series of daring escapades deep within a dark and dangerous criminal underworld, Han Solo meets his mighty future co-pilot Chewbacca, which goes against any aborted anything, canon, legends, whatever, about how Han and Chewie meet. So that'll be interesting to see. But then it goes, and encounters the notorious gambler Lando Calrissian in a journey that will set the course of one of the Star Wars saga's most unlikely heroes.
Yep. So that was all one sentence for you guys wondering.
That's why it took me about 3 minutes to deliver it, because it's a doozy.
Yeah. So yeah, like you were saying before, this is hitting all the beats that we expected. We're gonna get the Lando, we're gonna get the Falcon, we're gonna get the Chewie meetup.
So
and then
do you
from
think,
there,
Nick, then, just with the way they phrase it, through a series of daring escapades deep within a dark and dangerous criminal underworld, is that implying that Han's gonna meet Chewie in the underworld?
That's kind of how it reads, right? I mean, I know that you put out the article a couple weeks ago about, you know, the beats that you wanted to see in the Solo film, and you referenced the old EU kind of story behind the Han and Chewie meetup. Han being an Imperial freeing him from a slave colony.
And that honestly, I mean, that's been told in many different ways in legend. But I remember Star Wars Galactic Battlegrounds, which, by the way, is still probably the best RTS computer game out there. But the whole story was, you know, Kashyyyk was taken over by the Empire, and then the Empire brought in the Trandoshans.
Yep.
To basically run the slavery op on the Wookiees. And in that one, I don't know if Han was an Imperial, but I mean, he essentially breaks him out. But in the comics and other books, I believe Han is always, let's say 80% of Han's hodgepodge backstory was he was involved with the Empire at some point in time.
Yeah, he was an Imperial pilot, and then he ended up, like, he was kind of, from what I can remember, he was like one of those disobedient soldiers that kept getting knocked down.
He was an officer, actually, at least in the comic book part. He was a lieutenant, and in the comic run, he still saves Chewie from peril, but I don't know if, I think they were going to be made to be slaves on, like, Coruscant or a planet or something.
Yeah.
And Han, at that point, had already risen up to lieutenant, and he was like, no, fuck you. And, eventually saves him. That's where the life debt comes into play. So it's just the phrasing of the sentence is kind of weird.
Yeah, because it's definitely, I think, rules out any kind of play like that. I don't think that
I don't think we're getting
happen.
an Imperial Han, unfortunately, because I really do think that was a cool kind of fill-in backstory thing after you already watched what Han did. You'd be like, yeah, he started off with the bad guys, which, honestly, when you first meet Han, it would make complete sense, because it's not like he is this clear-cut good guy in A New Hope. I mean, he's
Oh, no.
literally trying to make a buck to pay back Jabba.
Yeah, and he seems pretty familiar with
Shady shit.
avoiding Imperial entanglements,
Right.
almost like he has had. He's obviously had run-ins with them before, but maybe he had some inner workings, some inner knowledge of how the fleet functions, or how scans work when they're looking for smaller crafts. Who knows? But it's going to be interesting to see how they set up his background now. Obviously, with the old EU being killed and considered legends, it was all up to the creators of this new movie, whether it be the Lucasfilm story group from the inception, or if they put a bulk of that into the hands of the original directors of this film, is yet to be seen. But it's gonna be new, and it's gonna be something we haven't read or seen before. So I'm pretty interested to see how they make this
I
connection.
hope they incorporate the Empire somehow with Han, even if he's like a prisoner, because I think they somehow need to establish that while he's a scoundrel and kind of this seedy guy, there's a reason why he can build up enough hate for the Empire to join the rebellion.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's almost unavoidable considering what timeline we're looking at for this film. I mean,
well, even if we go back, I mean, why is he in trouble with Jabba? Because the Empire fucking boarded him. He dumped the spice.
Yeah, exactly.
And that is canon. That's legit.
Yep, that was in the film, so everybody knows.
The fact that it's spice, have you ever thought that it's tied to Dune?
No, I never considered that.
Right? Because it's the spice mines of Kessel. I mean, that's why we had the Kessel Run.
Yep.
Is it just to get that drug out of there?
Yeah, it's true.
And it's a drug in Dune. That's the only reason I asked. And by the way, most of you were born in probably the 90s and 2000s. You have no clue what Dune is, but
apparently they're supposed to be doing like a Dune, another Dune remake. I think it's like the fourth or something like that.
Yeah, Villeneuve, the guy that just did 2049 is going to do it.
Yep, Blade Runner guy. So it should be pretty interesting.
Here's a non-Star Wars tangent. It's a goddamn shame that movie was a box office failure. By the way, people. Every one of you should be ashamed of yourselves.
It is a fucking fantastic movie.
Ashamed of yourselves.
I'm happy I saw it on the big screen. And even for those of you who I didn't see the original Blade Runner, I can't go see it. It doesn't matter. It was a fantastic film.
It is a beautiful movie. A beautiful movie. And it's a goddamn shame that movies like that fail, because guess what? In this day and age, that means we're done. We'll never get a movie like that again. Because all the fucking white guys in suits are going to be like, no, we're not going to hit our bonus if we fail movies like that.
Yep, it is a fucking crying shame. But we'll see what he can do with...
mother lazy assholes.
Just go... There's a movie theater 2 miles away from you. I guarantee it. Just bring your ass there and watch bullshit.
I get it. I love Star Wars too. But you got to give these other sci-fi properties a chance, because it's a travesty that movie lost money. And it did. It lost big.
Yeah, I mean, marketing, they lost all the marketing money for that, and then the box office.
Budget. I mean, just to make that fucker. I mean, they lost money. There will not be another fucking Blade Runner.
Oh, yeah.
Not for a while.
I think they said that they might do, anime spinoffs or something that.
Ridley Scott has come out and said, well, I have another story to tell. Well, hey, good for you. This one fucking didn't make any money, so fuck off.
So here's the box office for worldwide box office was $259 million with a production budget. I mean, this is on Box Office Mojo. This is what I always go to for my box office stuff. The production budget listed on here was $150 million. So you have to figure, I don't know how much they put into advertising for this. Probably 50, maybe 1/3. So, and then you got to figure in, what they paid the actors. Ryan Gosling and Harrison Ford weren't cheap.
It's considered a flop.
Oh yeah, I mean domestic it made under $100 million, $91 million domestic U.S. and then foreign was pretty big, $167 million. So, I mean, it's
unreal. It's unreal.
Yeah, I mean, it was a fantastic movie. Yeah, it was a little long. If you don't like long movies, then I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Last Jedi was long, but it was fucking well worth it.
Fix your bladder.
Yeah, don't take a piss in the middle of the movie. Just don't drink anything.
Don't drink a lot of liquids before you go see a movie like that. Okay, so back to Star Wars.
Back to Star Wars.
Yeah, so anyways, Solo's a goddamn fucking mystery. It's still it's in disaster state, and it will be in a disaster state for me until we fucking see something.
all
this could be cleared up with a good teaser. All this could be cleared up with a good teaser.
Yeah, we know that Disney can cut together some good teasers. We've seen it happen for every Marvel movie that's ever come out and every Star Wars movie that's come out since they've had them. No trailer for a Star Wars movie has been like, okay. All of them have been pretty fucking fantastic. So
and
even
we're nut
if
jobs, but they're so good, they usually result in multiple hours of work for us.
Yeah, I know. We get
I'll watch
one
the
trailer.
And I'll sit there and watch it 10 more times, and then I'll sit there and take fucking 30 screenshots from it and write about every one of them.
Yeah, and then we talk for about an hour and 20 minutes on each trailer.
At least 2 or 3 casts on the goddamn thing, breaking it down.
Yeah. So even if in the eyes of the production team they have minuscule amounts of good footage to work with, they can still cut together a trailer that probably looks decent.
You can't tell me at this point in time, reshoots or not, that they don't have enough fucking footage to cut together a goddamn 2-minute clip.
I guarantee you they do. And who knows? We
but
record these
I
things
think you're
on
right
Fridays.
at this point. I think they're waiting to drop it during a fucking either this weekend during the conference games, or they'll wait till the Super Bowl.
Yep, that's the only 2 times that makes sense. There's no other big events to do it.
Are we on? Is it going to be a Disney Network for the Super Bowl, or is it Fox
no,
or CBS?
It's CBS. It's NBC. It's NBC for the Super Bowl.
Okay.
So
yeah, it probably won't even be then.
Yeah, because after that, you really don't have any time. There's no obvious moment to do it, obviously. But, Disney has access to a lot of different TV media conglomerates. ABC, anytime they want to, they could just drop it on a fucking random episode
regardless of
GMA.
access, it's a fucking Star Wars trailer.
Yeah, so who knows, but I'm just going to say, from this plot synopsis, like we said from the start, this doesn't give us anything that we didn't already know.
Yeah.
We knew everything that they said in this, was going to happen, obviously. It was very clear.
It's it's pretty much the Disney and Lucasfilm execs just fucking with us. You guys are bitching about getting something, here you go. Deal with this fucking bullshit.
And has any other Star Wars movie that released had something like this? Had a plot synopsis that was officially released by Disney? I don't think so. Not that I can remember, at least.
Me neither. I'm sure they might have, but I only think the reason this has gotten so much attention is because this is all we've gotten.
Yeah, exactly.
Outside of what Howard was sharing on his Instagram, this is the most information we've gotten about this film yet.
Yeah, and people, you need to realize that the photo that's still being used for this movie in a lot of articles that are being written is the cast photo that was taken before Ron Howard even came onto the movie.
Miller and Lord are still on the fucking
they're still
cockpit
on
of the Falcon.
Yeah, so there's a lot of shit that has happened in this movie that we haven't gotten a legitimate cast photo from after the release of Miller and Lord and then the oncoming of Ron Howard. We haven't gotten a poster. We haven't gotten anything. And then on the topic of Ron Howard, we can kind of pivot away from the...
Yeah, there was another article that came out this week where I guess one of the actresses that worked on the film, throughout with both Phil and Chris and Ron, she basically, her name's Phoebe Waller-Bridge. She pretty much came out and said, the handover was seamless, and it was honestly the fucking shit because Ron Howard's a god.
Yeah,
That's me really simplifying it, but honestly, if you read the article, that's pretty much what the entire thing says.
Yeah, and then the one thing that really kind of chimes in towards the end is she was asked, how much of her role that she knows of is going to hold over from Miller and Lord through Ron Howard. And according to her, she, at least what she can tell, is a lot of the stuff that she filmed with Miller and Lord is still going to be there. And then, Ron Howard
for her role is what she said.
Well, then also Donald Glover came out and said that he
hardly even shot with him.
Yeah, he barely saw Ron Howard.
And I honestly think it's just that one set pic that he sent out where they showed the practical effect of hyperspace.
Yeah.
It's almost he just was filming Lando in the cockpit of the Falcon. That was it.
So after hearing this girl talk, and then after, hearing Donald Glover talk, what I'm starting to think is that, like, Alden Ehrenreich just couldn't work with these guys, and they decided to ditch the directors instead of ditching him.
Yeah, for the lead. Yeah,
and then brought Ron Howard in and just redid all the Han shit. Yeah. Because we haven't heard anything about Han Solo's character. Nothing. Zero. Right. Like, Alden hasn't said anything. He hasn't come out and commented on Ron or
yeah, it's almost
Miller
like
Lord.
They basically have a gag order on the guy.
Yeah, so
you almost wouldn't even know he's still involved.
No, I mean, because the only rumors that came out before the firing of Miller and Lord was that Alden Ehrenreich needed help. Like, he needed to bring in an acting coach. He needed to, there was a lot of problems with his performance.
And I guess on with this movie.
Yeah. So from what I can gather then from this, I mean, this is just in my head. It's like this kid just either they brought in an acting coach. The acting coach did what he could do. And then the Disney execs came in and said, look, this kid just can't work with these directors. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to kick them out. We're going to bring in a dude that we know is top flight, cream of the crop. And then if he can't get this kid to work, then we don't know what the fuck is going to happen.
We're going to bring in a guy that literally has worked and succeeded in Hollywood since he was a baby.
Yeah. So if Ron Howard can't make Alden Ehrenreich's Han Solo look good, then I don't know what the fuck. I don't think anybody could.
Just fucking delete the movie.
Yeah,
this is one that people may want to fucking take up a petition for.
Yeah, I mean, look, I am nervous about this film. I was kind of hyped about it, when it was first announced, but I always did have a little reservation in the back of my mind because to me it's the most dangerous step that Disney's taken so far.
Well, we've talked about it forever. I mean, it's the fact that they chose Han, but so close to New Hope Han.
Yeah, exactly. I
don't care about choosing Han, but I mean, literally the way they picked him and how they have to portray him, it's never going to match continuity because you can't say that this Alden kid is just a 10-year younger version of Harrison Ford. It just makes no sense.
Yeah, it's dangerous. It's easy to fuck up, and then the biggest thing is
fucking Han Solo.
Yeah, I mean it's Han Solo played by Harrison Ford, and it's one of the most iconic movie characters of all time. And
isn't Ford on record saying to anyone that was going to be asked to play him, don't do it?
Yeah, that was literally what he said. He said, "Don't do it." If you had to give, yeah, I mean, you can't blame him. You can't blame him because what happens here is, if you fuck this up,
it's tough. I mean, this is the hardest standalone. The more I think about it, I mean, the Kenobi's a no-brainer. I mean, because they've established a younger Kenobi already, and it made sense because he was so much younger.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're talking
30, 40 years
30, 40,
almost.
Yeah. And then now you can still use the same, if you're going to do the Kenobi spinoff now, you can use the same actor. Ewan's in,
and it's perfect.
And he's going to be the same age. You don't even have to do some kind of crazy CGI age progression that much. He's still good.
Yeah, I mean, they may lighten him up a bit more and put a few more wrinkles on, but he's almost spot on.
Yeah, but I mean, for this, what you're talking about is you're taking the most, one of the three most iconic characters in Star Wars history. You're doing a backstory on him, and you're doing it with a character, in a time period, like you said, that's so close to the OT that if you fuck it up, people are going to go crazy. If this movie is bad.
Even if you don't, I mean, honestly, think about it. At least I'm at least coming from my perspective. I'm going to look at this guy and be like, that's not Han Solo. No matter how good the plot is, going into it, I'm going, this is not Han Solo. This is not a 10-year younger version of Harrison Ford. Because he would look like Harrison Ford in A New Fucking Hope.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's definitely going to have to be a level of, suspension of disbelief from every Star Wars fan who goes to see this. But, that's a tough fucking thing to pull for Han Solo. Yeah.
It's not tough for Boba Fett or Darth Vader, because guess what? They have fucking masks. Don't matter.
And the big thing for me, though, dude, is that Harrison Ford played this character so unique that I don't know if...
I mean, I think that's part of the reason why Han's so special, because the goddamn guy playing him fucking hated his guts.
Yeah, he hated the character, but he put forward a performance that was, like, masterful. Like, he gave this character a personality that
he made him the same prick that Harrison Ford is in real life. I mean, Han Solo's Harrison Ford.
Yeah, as close as you can get to him for anybody who's played on the big screen, for sure. But I just don't know if this kid is going to be able to pull off something like that. Like, you're going to have to recreate Harrison Ford as Han Solo on film, and that's going to be really hard to do. So, I don't know. I mean, I'm glad that we have, actresses and actors out here singing the praises of Ron Howard. I put a lot of faith in him. He's a fantastic filmmaker.
But I think everyone, when he was announced, was like, okay, I mean, you can't do much better than that. I mean, I don't think if this movie sucks that people are going to blame Ron Howard. I won't.
I won't either. I mean, I'm just so worried about this having the Justice League effect, and I've said it on multiple casts before, because now we found out that a large part, if not all of Lando, is going to be held over from the previous directors. A large part of Phoebe Waller-Bridge's character is going to be held over from the previous directors. And, I'm assuming, I don't know how much screen time Lando's going to have. I assume he's going to have at least one act, right? He's going to have to be in at least one full act of the film.
I would say, I would expect two, to be honest with you. I think he's middle and end.
Yeah, so to me, if you're going to have a main character of that proportion have most of his filming and most of his on-screen time held over from a director or a directing team that was fired halfway through or more than halfway through, like, you're really starting to make me nervous. And then you're going to have your primary character, Han Solo, is probably all reshot with the new director. I don't know, man. It's going to be a crazy time. We'll see, but
I'll still see it at least twice. I promise everybody that.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna see it a couple of times at the very least too. I mean, this isn't gonna be a Christmas release, so I'm not gonna have that 4 for sure kind of thing like I've had with the last two movies or the last three movies.
This is coming right in the middle of my fucking summer break, so I'll have at least 2 weeks off with my gig.
Yeah,
so I'll probably see it 2 or 3 times. I mean, 2 guaranteed. If it's garbage, you ain't getting me past 2. But I usually like to watch films in different formats.
Yeah, especially for Star Wars, I like to see it at least twice because obviously you have the initial like fanboy excitement.
Oh, you have to. I mean,
I
still can't. I wish you could have been with me for my initial TLJ because I was out of my mind, like with just energy and expectations. I remember the trailers lasted almost 30 minutes, and I was vocally yelling in the theater like, come on, because I mean I couldn't take it. I wasn't trying to be a dick. Like my heart was like ready to leap out of my chest.
Yeah.
So yeah, you have to, because I mean when you're as nutty as Nick and I, the first time you watch a new Star Wars anything, you're fucking goo goo gaga.
Yeah, you're too enthralled with all the pretty pictures and all of the things that your heart's desires on the screen, and then the second, third, fourth, and forward, you really get
you take it in.
Soak
like
it in.
I will never forget my first experience watching the Resistance escape from whatever that fucking planet was. I mean, I was like, man, that could be one of the most. It is the most exciting opening act of a Star Wars movie ever.
It was.
I mean,
it was
Poe's
definitely
bullshit and his bluff to the drama around the bombing run. I mean, that whole scene where they're shooting fucking Paige, essentially sacrificing herself to drop the bombs, and she fails this and then almost misses it. I mean, I was like literally dying in my seat watching that.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God.
It's fantastic. It's a fantastic opening.
Loved it.
We'll see what we get out of Han Solo. We don't want to hang on to too much because there's really not a lot of news, people. I mean, we put these two pieces in because the movie's 4 months out, and we're trying to give you everything we can on Han Solo that's confirmed or at least makes sense. And this is what we got this week. But for the time being, everybody's in a holding pattern. There are memes out there. I think I tagged you in one of the memes, Matt, about the Han Solo trailer. It was a episode 2 meme with Obi standing in the universal projection room in the Jedi Temple asking about Camino. It's pretty good. It was a pretty good one.
He's
so
like,
if you guys haven't seen
it there or something like
yeah,
that.
it was the Han Solo movie trailer is supposed to be here, but it isn't, or something like that.
That's exactly what it was.
So if you haven't seen that meme, go look it up. It's out there on the internet. It's pretty funny. But moving from one standalone to the next.
To a potential next.
We're going to talk a little bit about the potential Obi-Wan Kenobi spinoff, and one of the characters that could be in it, or at least the actor says that he's willing to be in it if he's asked, and that is Liam Neeson, saying he's up to reprising his role as Qui-Gon Jinn in the Obi-Wan Kenobi standalone film that is possibly happening. What do you think about that? You think?
Well,
that's
again,
that
I mean, people,
interesting?
this isn't him like just saying, hey, I want to make this statement. I mean, he's out promoting his new fucking Taken movie, which I know it's not Taken, but it's basically him just beating the shit out of people on a train.
Yep.
And someone asked him, like, yo, if you were asked to come back to Star Wars, would you do it? So he says, this is the first time I'm hearing of this, which I really do believe, because it's not like he's me and Nick. No one's been in touch with me. I know in the Star Wars world anything is possible. In the first one, The Phantom Menace, I died, but we know, Jedi's come back and stuff, but no one's been in touch. We'll see.
Yeah.
So again, he's not saying no, but he's not saying yes, but he's basically saying, why not?
I mean, if we're going to think about this canonically, it would make sense, because at the end of episode 3, Yoda says to Obi-Wan,
well, I mean, Qui-Gon is the grandfather of Force ghosting.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, he's the one who figured it out. He figured it out before
He didn't invent it,
Yoda.
but he's the one that realized that it was a possibility, and then he did it because, you gotta remember, Qui-Gon didn't disappear with the Force like Obi, Yoda, and Luke.
Yep.
He fucking died. I mean,
he died.
He's
His
like
body
Vader.
was
I mean,
burned.
he's the same as Vader if you want to argue that. I mean, Vader literally physically passed in his body and did not become one with the Force.
Yeah,
Right?
and
he didn't.
So it was Qui-Gon that really introduced this generation of Force users to that possibility of living on through the Force. And we know that. I mean,
again, you essentially all you're doing is ditching your organic form.
Yeah,
you are still you. You essentially become your soul projected.
Yeah, that's pretty much how it would work. And then, I mean, I would figure, honestly, if you're going to do an Obi movie, I mean, I guess it depends on, how they structure the time period and everything around that.
It would make complete sense.
I mean, that's to me, like, that's a first act kind of thing is, Obi is kind of settling into his seclusion on Tatooine. Yoda had already told him about this ability and about reconnecting with his old master.
There's already precedents. In those 100 short tales, there's a story where Qui-Gon appears to Kenobi on Tatooine.
Yep. So,
which is canon at this point.
You just follow up off of that, and we know it had to happen, even if it hasn't been in like movie format yet. I mean, of course it happens. I mean, it's basically said in episode 3, like, hey, you're gonna do this. This is what you're gonna do. This is your training, and then that's how Obi gets the ability
I almost think
to
either in the
Force
Clone Wars or in Rebels that we get a Qui-Gon.
I think
voice
that
too.
in Clone Wars, for sure there is a Qui-Gon ghost. I remember seeing it, specifically remember seeing a Qui-Gon ghost somewhere.
Yeah, and like I said,
Wars.
there may even be just a Force voice Qui-Gon in Rebels to Kenobi.
Yeah. So I
would love it. I mean, in the end, I completely buy into Neeson's statement. I mean, I don't think it's anything he's petitioning for, but I think if asked, he would definitely consider it, and I do think it would make complete sense to have a Qui-Gon appearance in a Kenobi movie. I mean, it makes total sense.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be anything extensive.
It would
either.
actually
it's not
be
like...
fucking awesome. I mean, let's be real.
Yeah, I think it would be fucking fantastic.
I mean, I'm being dead serious. I know a lot of people put The Phantom Menace as the worst prequel. I'm going to go on a limb and say it's probably the best because you can excuse a lot of the nonsense because two of the main actors are literally children.
Yeah, both Padme and Anakin in that film were very, very young.
Portman was maybe 14 and Lloyd's 9 or 10.
There's a heavy amount of Gungan in that, though.
It's rough, but my argument is Attack of the Clones is the worst,
trash.
hands down. I mean, that is just a garbage fucking movie.
Yeah.
And Sith gets heavy penalties in my mind. The heaviest of penalties. Because of how severely it fucks Anakin's turn to the dark side.
I mean, you're right. It's not a great turn, but to me, like, I really like that fight at the end between Anakin and Obi-Wan. I mean, like, you could say, like, the line at the end is really cheesy, and I don't like it every time it's said. Like, from my point of view, the Jedi, like, that whole exchange, I really think it's corny and dumb. But other than that, like, the choreography of that fight I thought was really fucking cool.
You know, it's funny, like, my buddy is pretty prominent in the stunt world. And I guess the word around town is, like, if you really watch that sword fight, it's a fucking joke.
Really?
Yeah,
it's
he's like all they do is like twists and turns and just smack. He's like,
I mean,
he's like they're not really doing any type of sword play.
No, they're not at all. And in fact, like all they're doing is just like meeting each other's blades.
Like it's just nonstop parries is all it is.
Yeah, they're not actually trying to strike each other at any point in that fight. Like you can watch that entire fight. There was not one moment where Anakin or Obi-Wan went for a strike against the other one until Anakin jumped up in the air and he got his legs chopped.
It's not even like they're even playing defense. They're literally just smacking their sabers together.
Yeah, I mean, it looks cool because of all the flashiness and like all the turning and shit. But yeah,
I'm being dead serious. Like, I honestly think, as bad as Attack of the Clones is, Revenge of the Sith to me is still committed the biggest sin of all of the movies because that was a movie where they could have tried to redeem everything. And they just made it even worse.
I mean, at that point, like at that point in it, you couldn't. There was not one thing you could do to save that trilogy. Like, yeah, you could have definitely made Anakin's fall better, and not so weak and not so subservient and shit.
Tragedy for the character of Darth Vader. I mean, it cements Darth Vader as a pussy dipshit loser.
Yeah, it's just not good, and I just don't know. I think there's some good Kenobi in that film. There's some other decent parts to it that I don't find completely awful. I mean, I think that genuinely, I think that when Order 66 goes down, you see all the Jedi getting gunned down on different planets and stuff like that. I think that's pretty cool to see how the Order was carried out. And there's some other moments in there too that I think I think I said this in one of the more recent casts, but like the overhead shot of Anakin going into the temple after he had, fallen and made his turn, and he's leading in that group of clone troopers. That's a badass shot. It looks fucking really cool. So there's some shit in there that I like. Obviously, a lot of it is still rough around the edges. I'm a fan, like, aside from the Gungan shit in episode 1, I do think that there's some decent stuff in it. The pod race is actually surprisingly fun to watch on occasion. And then obviously at the end, fight with
like I still contend Duel of Fates is
probably the
best part of the prequels.
Oh yeah.
Musically and just the scene and the action.
Oh yeah, by far. And the fact that Lucas and both Lucas and Disney were smart enough to keep Maul around after that film is fantastic, because I mean that was a character that really we didn't get enough of in that movie, and he was a very, very interesting character, especially in Clone Wars, and what he the small parts that he played in Rebels around the stalking of Obi-Wan Kenobi, and then the final fight that they had on Tatooine was fantastic. So I'm glad that we, at the very least, we got that character out of the prequels, And other than that, I don't even like what else did we really get from the prequels. I mean, maybe a pretty cool
the Clone
Ewan
Wars.
McGregor.
I mean, the Clone Wars
cartoon series, very good.
That's the only redeemable aspect of that era at this point. It's the only thing that like sort of gave the character of Anakin a soul and like someone that you could see that was powerful and wanted to be good, but just was always drawn to the wrong decision.
Yeah.
But the movies are just fucking garbage. And
yeah. Don't worry, dude. That's the next money pot for Disney. Give them 20 years, 15, 20 years.
I still
George
think
Lucas will
think
be dead.
Lucas made a blood pact with Kathleen. Like, you'll never touch my films.
Lucas. I mean, it's very possible. I mean, we'll never know like the strict details of the acquisition and what. If Lucas had any demands, but I would imagine that's probably one of them. Don't fuck with the prequels. I don't care what people think about them. Don't fuck with them.
Yeah.
But honestly, after he croaks, dude, I'd be okay with it.
Yeah,
like,
sure.
Just go ahead.
Why
Go
not?
ahead and redo it. Fuck. I mean, you don't even have to completely change the story. I mean, like, I think the story itself, aside from the Anakin's fall arc, wasn't terrible and could be executed better.
The biggest issue is the middle movie.
Yeah,
you
it's just
rewrite
complete
that
garbage.
entire thing, you could fix a lot, and then you rewrite the end of Sith, and okay, we're talking.
Yeah, so
I still think, I mean, outside the fuck off Jar Jars and shit, Phantom Menace, if you honestly sit down and think about it, is a
word this very carefully.
I can't even say it, man. I mean, it's tough, but
I mean, it's
I
a
did see this
watchable
movie
film.
10 times in theaters, by the way. I did see it.
I think, like, but here's the thing: is Clones. I saw 3-4 times. I mean, I saw Sith a lot. I saw Sith 5 times in the theaters, and like, but it's just because
I just think by
at
the
that
time
moment,
Sith came around, I was so beat down, and like I was done just kidding myself at that point. I was like, dude, you can't. Whatever you want to tell yourself, it's not going to work this time. This just is not good.
yeah,
It's not a good movie. It's not a good way for this trilogy to end. This is not a good way for Darth Vader to be portrayed. And you should question your entire life. I mean, that's how I felt in 2005.
yeah. To me, like, Phantom Menace is watchable. Attack of the Clones is not almost completely.
It's tough. I mean, it's tough to even recommend watching any part of it.
Yeah, I mean, at least like in every movie, there's like an iconic scene that you would want to recommend to people.
Well,
like,
I mean, to me, if we have to go that far for Clones, it's the 2-minute scene in the Skywalker homestead where Anakin opens up to Padme about slaughtering the Sand People.
Yeah,
That's it. That's the only time anything of that movie felt genuine. It's the only time I was like, okay, I can see a little bit of Darth Vader in that guy.
yeah.
But I
and
never
that's the
got
first
that again.
time.
I never got it again. I didn't get it in Sith. I never got it again.
Yeah,
Never. I never got
And
that
that-
feeling like, okay, I could see him being Darth Vader. That's all I wanted.
They tried to make that moment too in those final fights with Dooku towards the end, but like, I mean, it's just the way, I don't know, dude. Like, Anakin dual wielding in a really shitty manner and just getting defeated so easily, and then like Obi-Wan not really being able to do anything versus Dooku. I don't know. I mean, if you watch a lot of the fights around that use the older actors, what you'll see is, especially in 2 and then towards the end with 3 with Mace
it's close-ups
and
and then pull-outs with a fake CG head.
yeah. And like those really close-up shots, like the really zoomed in on the face thing, it just doesn't feel like, I don't know, it doesn't feel natural, and it just doesn't flow well with the continuity of the fight. Like, there was this, like, I'm just picturing the moment in episode 2 where it's Obi fighting Dooku, and like you just get this weird close-up on Obi's face as like they're in that kind of standoff where they're like pushing each other's sabers back and forth. And it's right before like Dooku slides his saber down and then like nicks him on the arm and then gets him on the leg. that moment, that close up on the face, it just felt so weird. And I know, like, George really, he came out and said, like, why he did shit like that, and it was because he wanted to showcase the actors and didn't want to rely too heavily on CGI in those fights, which is funny because he relied too heavily on CGI in the rest of the entire fucking movies. But those fights, like that fight in particular at the end of episode 2 with Dooku, were just such a big letdown. And then, like, obviously you have the one where Yoda comes in and starts flipping off the walls and shit, which is a little weird. But yeah, I mean, like, it's just,
oh my god, dude. I mean, I just think about moments from that trilogy and I just have to laugh at this point.
yeah.
Because I convinced myself at the time that shit was cool. Because I didn't want to admit. I mean, I'm not kidding. It took until the last movie for me to finally admit to myself, like, hey, Matt, these were not good.
Dude, it was so funny.
Not good at all, dude.
I was the same way.
Your life love has been destroyed.
I remember getting out of episode 2, my first screening of episode 2 with my friends, and we were all talking about, oh my god, Yoda flipping everywhere.
Of course, we all did it. I did it too. I'm not gonna lie about it. I remember I got interviewed because I was one of the bozos even back then before cosplay was cool. I was wearing my goddamn Jedi robe at these fucking premieres.
Yeah.
So of course when I come out, they're like, look at this fucking whack job. What'd you think of the movie? I'm like, La La Yoda fun.
Oh man, but yeah, dude, it's just the only thing that we can hope for now is that, you know, it seems like Disney is really trying to fill those gaps post prequels. Like, they've already done one with Rogue One. It seems like, you know, they're not really heading in a, you know, we'll see what happens with Han Solo, if that can be considered like a post-prequel film or if that's really going to be just a Han Solo film.
Well, I mean, honestly, let's be real. In the end, if it does suck, it doesn't affect much.
It doesn't. It really doesn't.
Because it's not setting any type of new story that we just have to believe is real or that really matters in the Skywalker saga. That's why the prequels are so devastating, because they're everything. I mean, they're literally the story of Darth Vader's fucking creation, and they're terrible.
Yeah. So, who knows? I mean, maybe with this, you know, with this Obi-Wan Kenobi film, if it does happen, we can get some more, you know, redemption of the prequel area, and then we can start to kind of, like you said, you know, with Rogue One, it was kind of the beginning of a new pseudo prequel trilogy. You know, maybe we get, you know, maybe we can consider like Obi-Wan Kenobi, Han Solo, and Rogue One like the new prequel trilogy.
Oh, you're dead on. I mean, you could just abort the other stuff and just take for granted. You know, even Johnson, I mean, you got to give him credit there. He did infuse the prequels into The Last Jedi, and I really did think it was a nice touch.
Yeah.
Just to really provide that continuity, because there's no continuity in 4, 5, and 6 with the fucking prequels. There's none. I mean, I don't know what the fuck anyone's kidding themselves.
Aside from the immediate mention by Obi-Wan Kenobi of the Clone Wars, that was it.
Yeah, and besides seeing Darth Vader, I mean, there's zero continuity. There's so many contradictions in the original trilogy to the prequels.
Well, we'll see.
Remember, I mean, the Obi-Wan Kenobi lost almost all credibility thanks to the prequels, because now we know he's just a fucking chronic liar.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's been memes that have come out from a certain point of view. Rian Johnson has used it to justify his decision. From a certain point of view, this is the right fucking thing to do.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. That's all because the prequels started that shit.
Yeah, I really that's why I didn't like that line at that fight, is like, oh, from my point of view, the Jedi are evil. It's like, dude, that's not even like, I mean, you can say whatever you want about that, but like, based off of the information that we were given around that, throughout those entire 3 movies, there was no reason.
Talk yourself out of Sith even being remotely redeemable, because it's not. It is one of the most egregious of those movies because of how it cements Vader's legacy. Fuck Anakin Skywalker. Honestly, fuck him. He was a nobody in the original trilogy. He could have been someone very interesting. He was shafted, but the biggest travesty still is what it did to Darth Vader as a character overall, because it turned him into a whiny bitch.
Yeah. I mean, I really do think, honestly, if there was no addendum in that acquisition about Disney being unable to touch the prequels, I guarantee you that there have been talks in Disney, in the story group, about like, hey, I mean, general sentiment, not even general sentiment, like
I don't think they'll ever do it, man. They're so bought into it now, because if they do that, then now they're going to have to say, well, we abort the Clone Wars and we abort Rebels.
But see, like, they could do that with Clone Wars, though, dude, because Clone Wars is not a Disney production. They only said that we'll keep Clone Wars because of its connection to the prequels. If they say no more prequels, they can easily say, hey, like, Clone Wars goes with the prequels. Like, those
well,
prequel
I mean,
movies
how
are
far are
out.
they going to take it? Because at this point, we just said we have Darth Sidious in Episode 8. So
Yeah, but, like, you keep the same characters. Like, I wouldn't say... I keep the same characers.
You're just
you don't have
completely blow up the plots and just redo it all.
Yeah, just redo everything. So, like, you can keep everything with obviously Anakin's fall is going to be there. The relationship with Obi-Wan Kenobi is going to be there. And then the general, like, I mean, you don't have to keep the whole separatists thing, really, because that doesn't have any bearing outside of the immediacy of the prequels. I don't think it's ever mentioned in Rebels or anywhere past that. So, like, I mean, you would have to have some sort of Clone Wars thing to make that tie to the line that Obi dropped in Episode 4. But, like, to me, you keep all the same main characters. You can keep Padme, you keep Anakin, you keep Sidious, Obi-Wan, Yoda. I mean, I don't even care if you throw Mace Windu back in there. Like, keep all those motherfuckers, blow the plot up, and then you rebuild it from ground zero.
You can throw Mace and just delete his fucking purple lightsaber.
Just give him the green, and then let him be happy. But yeah, just do it again. I mean, that's all I would do. And then you keep the continuity between all of post-prequel era with Rebels and then the movies moving forward. And then you're just able to tell a better, more cohesive story. I mean, that's the way I would do it. Like, I wouldn't start from ground zero. I would just, rewrite the whole fucking story. But I mean, we'll see. You're probably right, dude. Like, it's probably never gonna happen.
I'm telling you, man, they made a fucking blood pact.
Yeah, but
no way, no way.
I mean, both of us have a lot of years left in us, so maybe when we're like 70 years old.
If they haven't even had the decency to release fucking Blu-ray or 4K of the untouched original trilogy, they ain't fucking rebooting the prequels. No way.
Yeah. Maybe they don't own. No,
because deleting the special editions is fucking. That's a no-brainer.
Maybe Lucas nuked those. Maybe he just got rid of them. Do you think he did that? Like, when he came out with Specialized, he just fucking
packed. George and Kathleen slit wrists, touched them together, got them stitched up. It ain't happening. They're not allowed to touch his works. I'm telling you, there's no way.
I just want to hold out hope, dude.
I'm trust me. I'm just playing devil's advocate. Who the fuck you kidding? I think I hate the prequels more than you do. There's no way. There's no way they're gonna fuck with the creator.
I really hope that, like, when we're both fucking in our 60s and 70s, like, they come out and announce it. And then, like, we can go out.
I welcome it.
And then, like, fucking, we'll be on our deathbed. And then Episode 3 will re-release, and it'll be fucking great. And we can both die having a complete Star Wars saga of films.
Exactly. I mean, that would be the greatest death ever. But, he's rich enough. I mean, he's a billionaire. He'll probably have his brain cemented on ice, and he'll still be alive when we're dying. So
yeah, he'll be like fucking in Futurama. He'll be like the floating head in the jar.
Right, sitting on a tuna can.
We'll see what happens. But
all right, so let's kind of move into our last two topics of the cast here, and it gets back to kind of modern Star Wars, in particular, my buddy Rian Johnson. Nick's he's gonna get over this after a while, but hey, that's what you get. So anyways, Nick, we have two stories from Rian, and they're vastly different. One is focusing on his existing Star Wars work, which is The Last Jedi, $1 billion movie. quite frankly, it's a fantastic film, and a lot of people love it outside of a small pocket of people that absolutely hate it, want to kill people over it. But at this point, Nick, do you kind of feel bad that, and this is just referencing the first story here, and just real quick summary, essentially Rian came out today on Twitter providing evidence of Jedi's ability to force project.
Yeah,
because clearly, I honestly think like the fan backlash is really starting to wear on him at this point.
It really is, and I feel bad for Rian.
Because
and almost
everywhere he's at now, he's getting in at least a quote or two trying to justify something.
To me, at this point, like, there is a famous line on the internet, and it's "Don't feed the trolls," and this is what he's doing now. Like, he's gotten to the point to where he can't stop himself.
Well, he even ends it, and he's shared this meme before, the Homer meme where he sucks into a bush. And he shared this a few weeks ago when he basically defended a choice. So the choice he's defending now, like I tease, is the fact that Luke could force project himself. And apparently in a 2010 Jedi Path novel, it
was essentially like a Jedi. What that book is essentially
like
a Jedi manual.
Yeah, it's like a fake fucking Jedi scripture thing.
Yeah.
And there's an advanced force technique called the doppelganger.
Yeah.
Or the similar futurist, like Harry Potter style.
Yeah, so here's what it says. Doppelganger permits a Jedi to create a short-lived duplicate of himself or herself or an external object that is visually indistinguishable from the real item. Those who have perfected this ability can create phantoms of any person of their choosing or trick an enemy into seeing more objects such as droids than are actually present. So, like, to me, like, the people who are sitting out there arguing the logistics of how the Force works, like, shut the fuck up. Like, the Force... Yeah, of course they can do it.
I don't, like I said, there are a few arguments about the Jedi that I'll concede. Like, okay, I can understand why you did not like that. But the shit with the comedy and the shit with Leia and the shit with, Luke's Force abilities, it's like, really?
Yeah, it's
like,
to me that's
ridiculous. What planet are we on, motherfuckers? It's a goddamn sci-fi movie.
Yeah, and to be completely honest with you, like, what's going to happen next is, like, he put this out there, which is fine. Like, he did prove his point. Like, hey, it was here before. But those books are now legends, which means they don't exist anymore. Essentially, I mean, like, for all intents and purposes, anything that ever happened in legends, including what he's quoted, it doesn't matter. It's not true. It doesn't exist.
Right. But in the end, Ben Solo is more or less a mashup of a legend. So they are clearly taking from legends.
Oh, yeah, they can pull back. But, I mean, using that as his justification is not gonna please the people out there who's making this argument.
Of course it won't, because they're fucking nut jobs. And by the way, have you refreshed this article? I guess there's an update that is fantastic.
I didn't. What does it say?
Okay, so anyways, earlier in the week, he came out and justified how Leia could survive her space thing and why she could pull herself in. He's basically like, there's no resistance in space. So even if you don't want to believe that she's strong in the Force, it wouldn't have taken that much Force effort to pull herself in.
Yeah, really. Like, if she just got bumped by a piece of space junk,
she would have floated a million miles out of orbit. But anyway, so this guy, a fan, replies, "Thanks for your response. I thought about that. But then I also thought about again, this guy's an idiot, but then I also thought about what kind of physical torment that being in the cold vacuum of space would do when you're trying to channel the Force. How could she focus to do that much with little to no training?" And Ryan responds, "'Cause she's a badass motherfucker." Yeah! That's how you respond to that shit. You don't provide a series of pictures and justify yourself. You come back with that right there. That was perfect.
To me, like... He's getting a lot of shit, and I will never be a person to give him shit about his creative choices.
He's a human, man, but you can tell it finally broke him. I mean, and anyone would succumb to that fucking type of hate. And you gotta understand, this guy for the past month has received death threats and had to read these fucking horrible articles about people setting up petitions to decanonize it. And the Nick and I mean, we didn't bring this up because I don't even want to give it any more credit than what it deserves, but there's a fan edit going around that defeminizes the movie. I mean, what the fuck are we talking about, people?
Yeah, this world has really gone off the fucking rails.
What is going on with you guys?
Shit like that, and then like people's inability to just move past. Like, if you have disagreements with the film, you can have them, you can converse about them, but like, you don't fucking try to ruin this guy's life because you didn't like the way something was portrayed in the film, especially something as minuscule as this. Like, I really do think that there are people out there who, I mean, like, we are hardcore die-hard fans, but there are people out there who think that they know everything that there is to know about Star Wars, even more than the creators.
They think they're George Lucas.
Yeah, so like the people out there who are saying like these abilities aren't possible or you can't do this, like, who makes those?
Who the fuck are you to say that? I mean, honestly.
Yeah, like you don't make that decision. Like, those decisions are made by the creators of this story, and those creators are now the directors of the new films and the Lucasfilm Story Group. So if they say it can happen, it can fucking happen, and you just need to accept that. And if you don't accept that, then you're gonna have a hard time moving forward into Star Wars.
Oh, dude,
for the time being.
I contend these people have a hard time just dealing with real life.
Yeah,
I mean, think about what this Aaron guy is honestly saying. Like, this dude has put serious thought, enough to respond to the director on Twitter about how Leia could survive in the vacuum of space.
Yeah, like,
first of all, a girl called Princess Leia from a galaxy far, far away in a movie about Star Wars. This guy has clearly probably spent the past month concerned about that scene.
Yeah, think about
that. I mean, think about that.
I just don't understand it. Like,
it's insanity. Man. It's insanity.
So yeah, and I don't know, guys. I really feel bad for Ryan because I think he made a fantastic film, regardless of what disagreements that I may have with parts of it. Yeah, I think it is a fantastic
Nick's
film.
winking right now when he's saying
my fingers are crossed behind my back.
Exactly.
This is all bullshit. But no, I honestly
really
think that the movie.
Film, not.
I really do think that the movie's good, and it's a fucking shame that this guy has to put up with all this stuff, and it's going to be a shame for him moving forward because he's in charge, and this is what we're going to talk about next, of a brand new trilogy of Star Wars films that is that he's going to be developing.
Which at this point, Nick, I mean, do you think? And I'm not referencing like Kathleen Kennedy or anyone, but do you think like the guys actually cutting checks at Disney are kind of sitting there going now like, I know it's just a minority of fans, but it's a pretty fucking vocal minority.
I mean, there are going to be people that are not going to watch the.
Oh no!
At least
I mean,
first
there's
movie
people
of this
that
trilogy,
they're like, we're done with Star Wars altogether because of Rian Johnson. And like,
yeah,
good, then get the fuck out. You don't deserve to be in this club anyways, idiot.
I mean, I don't think that the bigwigs are really worried because, like you said, the movie's crossed the $1 billion mark handily, and that's all they're worried about is the money. I think what the only one thing that they might be worried about around Rian Johnson as a whole is that, if
well, I think at this point it's just the perception that there are fans that they lost all faith in his ability to tell a Star Wars story.
Yeah, but I think at this point it's probably too far along for them to do anything, and I don't think that they would do anything anyway. I mean, Rian Johnson's a fantastic filmmaker, and what he's doing with his new trilogy is going to be completely new, and that's kind of what he talks about here. There was, he gave a quick quote about, what his new trilogy is going to be, where it's going to be set. No specifics, but it's, kind of how it came around, and this is what he said. I'll read the quote in its entirety. He says, As we got to the end of episode 8, we had a great time working with Kathleen Kennedy and with Disney. And we kind of said, how can we keep this party going? How can we keep working together? And I kind of threw out there, like, the most interesting thing to me would be to tell a new story told over 3 movies where we go someplace else. And we go kind of the potential of like a wide open blue sky of let's go to a different part of the galaxy, maybe a different time, I don't know. Let's meet some new characters and let's figure out what Star Wars means separated from the iconography that we've associated with it. Let's take it someplace else and see what that would be like. That just seemed like a really interesting question to ask. So if his movies are not going to be connected to Star Wars as we know it, from what I can tell here. So the fans out there who are super, super pissed about what happened with The Last Jedi and think that Rian Johnson should be excommunicated from Star Wars land and that his movie should be stricken from canon, like, his new films are not going to be connected, for at least from what this seems like. It's not going to be connected to the Skywalker saga in any way. It's going to be completely separated. And he's going to be telling a new story with new characters that are not linked, and he's going to be able to give a fresh perspective on how the Force and what it means to be Star Wars affects other areas.
It almost sounds like, and I think I even wrote a piece a while back basically saying the only time he can set this now, based on what he said, would be post new trilogy. But I think I even referenced, like, well, maybe you'll hear about General Rey, or, clearly they won't be featured, but maybe you'll hear about him. But if you really analyze what he said, it does seem like it's just going to be its own separate little deal. Where you might not even hear about what's going on in the galaxy that we've been introduced to in these 8 films.
That's what I'm really starting to believe now. Like, time period to me at this point really doesn't matter. You could set it during post Episode 9. You could set it during the time of the OT. I don't think it would make a difference because I don't think it's going to reference it at all. Like, it could be right in the middle of the transition between Republic to Empire, and
I don't even think you'll hear references to Jedi or Sith. I mean, you might see Force people.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the Force is still going to play a role, obviously, because the Force is one of those things that is not bound by, like, religion or area
and
or
again, Nick,
like that.
I mean, that's basically what he dropped. That's what he established in 8 was, listen, the Force is not this genetic thing.
Yeah.
Like, you do not have to be a Skywalker to be powerful in the Force. The Jedi do not own the Force. The Force is everywhere, and anyone can be inclined to tap into it.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's really what his goal was in that movie, was to say, listen, you know what? Sure, the Skywalkers are pretty fucking powerful in this shit, but it's not a DNA-based thing.
Yeah.
And that's Rey. That is Rey.
And I think that, that's going to be where he's going to take this new trilogy. The Force is everywhere.
It's Broomstick Boy.
I don't even think it's going to be that. I mean, like, it's not going to be that character for sure.
But what I'm saying is anyone in any part of this fucking galaxy that is Star Wars, more than even the galaxy we've seen, can have the Force.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And they may not even know that there are things called Jedi.
Yeah, exactly. Like, so that's where we're going, is we're going to see the Force and how the Force influences other portions of the galaxy that don't have this, these, established orders that have, specific relationships to the Force, like the Jedi and like the Sith and stuff like that. We might not even have lightsabers. We might not. I mean, who knows? With a trilogy of movies like he's describing, we could get completely new everything. We could get completely new iconic weapons.
All new science. I mean, the ships could travel a different way. The ships will look different. I mean, they could have other technologies. They could have transporter beams like Star Trek. I mean, who the fuck knows?
Yeah, and
so my question is, dude, being obviously a super fan and someone, I know you're like me. I mean, you would eat up like Skywalker shit until you died. Are you excited about the possibility of just a completely random, brand new Star Wars adventure? Or would you prefer to have even the loosest tie to the saga or to the stuff we already know and love?
Okay. So I'm completely okay with there not being any tie to.
Okay, but what would you prefer?
The new characters.
What would you prefer? Not even. I'm just talking about being tied to the Skywalker Galaxy films.
To me, there needs to be
even
something
referencing Tatooine or referencing Jakku.
I don't even think that that's necessary. To me, the only thing that's necessary is that you need to have something in there aside from the Force that allows your trilogy of films to be identified as a Star Wars movie. So, like, I don't think you have to reference Luke. I don't think you have to reference Leia or any of the other established characters. But you have to be able to tell when you go into this movie, if you don't see the splash, you have to be able to tell that this is a Star Wars film.
I think that's a challenge based on kind of what he's laying down. I mean, I think he has a huge challenge to accomplish that then.
Yeah, I mean, there definitely is going to be a challenge depending on how much he wants to shake off. Like, if he wants to keep lightsabers in it, then that's all you need. Like, you have the Force and you have lightsabers. It's Star Wars. Boom. You got it.
I agree. But I think deep down, being a lore whore, I would still like a very light, casual tie to what we already know.
Yeah, I mean, it would definitely be nice, and it would help to transition those people that are really connected.
Even if you see, like, a scroll on a fucking desk that you can catch, like, a quick blurb about the legend of Luke Skywalker,
or like like the symbol of the rebellion or something.
I mean, right, that would be enough for me. I'm not talking like they even have to like talk about it, just like those callbacks.
Yeah, I mean, because I've always been a fan of the Old Republic, and like you can go back to the Old Republic, and there's no reference to like Skywalker, none of that shit. Like none of the characters that were established through the prequels and then forward.
You're exactly right, but it felt Star Wars because they had goddamn lightsabers.
I mean, and there was
still blasters
Sith,
and lightsabers.
Yeah. I mean, you still had the Sith and the Jedi mixed in there too, so you had that iconography of the two main factions of the Force.
But it sounds like Rian he's blowing all that shit out of the water.
Yeah, so to me, you have to have something aside from the Force that ties this, that makes it very clear that this is a Star Wars film. Because honestly, if you're going to go into a movie and the only thing that you're going to use to link this to Star Wars is the Force, you're going to lose it. Because there's a lot of movies out there that use telekinesis and shit like that. So, I mean, you can't use that as your only tie. I mean,
no, I agree completely.
Fucking Professor X, for all intents and purposes, uses the Force.
He's a Jedi
master. He can move shit with his mind. He can read your mind. He can do all kind of shit. He can
stop shit. I mean, he can literally stop the world.
Stop time, yeah.
I mean, he's probably stronger than Yoda.
Yeah, so if that's all you're using, then like that shit could easily be mistaken for something that's not related to Star Wars. Jedi Master
X.
That would be pretty fucking dope, though. I mean, that shit could happen now that Disney owns all of it.
Exactly. They'd mash the shit out of it at all.
Just start doing... That's going to be fucking 20 years from now,
Star
dude. It's just Marvel, Star Wars mashups. Just going to be fucking crazy. And I would watch the shit out of it, too.
Like Star Wars Infinity Wars.
Oh, my God. I would fucking love it. But I'm excited for this trilogy, dude. Honestly, because I want to see what the future of Star Wars is. I mean,
it's going to be unlike anything we've ever seen in our life.
Probably so. And
I mean, the closest thing, like you said, is KOTOR and OTOR.
Yeah. I mean that's it. And I really don't even think that he's going to use a lot of that.
Right. Even that still had a lot of heavy ties back because you had Jedi, you had Sith, and you had lightsabers.
Yeah, and you're functioning within the same galaxy.
Right,
like when
and you're even hitting a lot of the same planets.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you're still hitting those iconic planets and stuff like that.
I mean, this trilogy is it's completely uncharted territory.
To me, I think it's going to be set in a completely different galaxy. Like you're going to have new planets that aren't related, like Tatooine,
well, is it
Jakku,
Snoke's galaxy then? Because
all of it's going to be gone.
Snoke came from the unknown regions.
I mean, it could be set in the unknown regions,
but I still don't think even Snoke would be remotely involved or even.
But that's like a tie. Like, if you want to do something like that, I mean, that's a tie you could make. I mean, Rian is one of the primary contributors to what we have of Snoke so far, at the very least. I mean, we got very little from JJ on Snoke.
I would take Snoke backstory in the form of a movie, but I don't even think they're even close to even thinking that. I think Ryan's over that character.
Yeah, I mean, there's no guess that we can make about this trilogy. I mean, like, we have nothing to go on. We have no idea what it's going to be about. And clearly, Rian is taking this away from everything that's been established in this universe thus far. So there's no not even an educated guess that we can make. The only thing that I can say is that I think it's going to be outside of this established galaxy to where there's not even going to be a recognizable place. And there's going to be two things. There's going to be the Force, and there's going to be something else that makes it distinctly Star Wars. And that's all I got.
Yeah. Hey, have you? And this is just like coming out of nowhere, and we don't have to spend a lot of time on it. But have you seen the? Apparently, in like in a book that's come out that it's referenced that Snoke had another apprentice.
Yeah, I did see that.
Okay.
And there's like speculation that like this new apprentice could somehow pop up in episode 9, which I think is the most ridiculous shit ever. I don't think that's gonna happen. Because
I mean, if you think about it, they could work with it, honestly.
I don't think they could. To be completely honest, if they did it, I think it would be dumb because you're putting in. So now you have Kylo. His attention is split between this new apprentice and then taking down which rest of the.
No. I think I think the new apprentice is trying to take out Kylo.
But see, like, to me, that's too much because because then that splits his attention away from his primary goal of taking out the Resistance.
Well,
and
it
like
could
that's
also
all
be
that
the
movie's
linchpin
about.
to get Kylo to switch back to the good.
It could, but that would be such a fucking weird ass move. I mean, if you're like, in my opinion, if you're gonna do that, then what's the fucking point of killing Snoke other than like, oh, now he's the First Order leader, but then you're immediately dismissing that because you're bringing in this other outside force that is now challenging his spot within, like, I don't know. It's just weird.
Kylo did look pretty cool in his Force Awakens outfit.
He did. It was a pretty badass outfit.
Like that beggar hood.
Yeah.
And he literally wore like a homeless person's hood.
Yeah, it wasn't even like a full cape either.
Because he's wearing essentially what he wore in Episode 8 underneath all that shit.
Yeah, the undergarb's the same. He just didn't have the full cape, and
he
obviously
wears like
got
a
rid of the
fucking
mask.
poor person's fucking hood, like a shepherd's hood.
Yeah, I definitely heard the rumors about the Snoke Apprentice, and I think it would be cool, like, side story. It'd be, while the Resistance is rebuilding, Kylo has to deal with this apprentice. I think that would be pretty fucking sweet because, I mean, obviously the rebellion as it's known now is in shambles, and you're going to have, like you said in the last cast, at least a couple of years between episodes 8 and 9 in order for the rebellion to probably build up some strength.
You would hope so.
Yeah. So in that downtime, that could be something that Kylo is pursuing, is like he found out Snoke had another apprentice and he's hunting this dude down, or maybe this dude is hunting down Kylo because he found out that he killed Snoke.
Well, yeah, I mean that's kind of what I meant. I mean, I think there is potential for it to provide a little bit of narrative value. Yeah,
I think it would be better served in the form of like a between movie novel or like a comic thread. But I think it could be interesting used in that way.
Yeah, well, hey. I'm just proud of us because we kept this cast under an hour and a half.
Yeah, relatively short on this one in comparison to our last couple.
Yeah, rock and roll. I mean, it was a pretty eventful week, honestly, in Star Wars. So, I mean, I can understand going over an hour this week. But, yeah. I mean, there's some good stuff. I do think we're going to have to get to my solo once sooner than later because I think once the first trailer comes out, it might make it ridiculous.
Yeah.
So maybe people will kind of tease next week's show. Maybe we'll talk about what moments we would love to see in Solo Star Wars Story if we actually see the movie. I mean, at this point, I still don't even believe it exists because nothing exists for it outside of a 2-sentence synopsis, which we talked about tonight. So.
Yep.
You never know. I mean, there's a new week ahead of us, and Disney's in charge of Star Wars, which means at any day we could get some new and exciting news to talk about. So we will do just that in the next episode of Star Wars Time. But for now, we're going to go ahead and shut this bitch down because it's been another great discussion about that galaxy from so far, far away that we all love and we all enjoy to talk about like it's real life. So, without further ado, may I bid you the typical Star Wars time show farewell. May the Force be with you, always.